under the Law of Nations 192, the surrender and the surrender to the state registrar and the enemy belligerent combatant coming forward and making an asseveration that you're not an enemy belligerent combatant of the United States, that your rights shouldn't be commingled with that of enemy belligerent combatants. And when you start to look at the trust that they have in place, because the Federal Reserve Banking Act of 1913, it starts to look a little better. I was going through Chris Hauser's videos the other day. Now, he's reached out to me a couple times. I just never got back to him. And I finally got a chance to sit down, and it was fishing, so I figured I'd just listen to his audios. And I really like the information that he's putting out there. But most recently, I got a hold of some audios of a retired IRS agent who got tired of the bullshit and saw that he was hurting people in his profession and morally couldn't handle it. So he started to show people how to correct your status with the IRS and the IMF. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to get the grantor to show their intent. And the grantor is not the father. Everything that the system is doing, these people in the system are doing, is from the mother's side. And so you're abandoning your father's estate, and your mother is the one who's the informant. So she becomes the grantor because the father was never on the document. So it makes the mother appear as though she had a bastard child and therefore had the ability to be the grantor and grant the offspring to the estate or to the
state. Because the doctors are lying to them when they, deliver their baby.
Well, doctors, look, it all goes back to Howard Mandel House, who said, and whether he said it or not, I wasn't there, but it makes perfect fucking sense. Very soon, the American people will unwittingly pledge their biological property. He said it. Biological property. Okay, what was he talking about? He was talking about people birthing children and farming them like cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was the only way to float a national debt. It was the only way to fund a government, was the future pledge of offspring's labor in the future. So that manifests a trust. Trust can manifest without anybody being aware of it. That's the fascinating thing about a trust.
Yeah, they want to lock up futures. So that's why they have doctors on the dock.
You nailed it. Well, the doctor is actually a title of nobility. And the DOD is in charge of the foundling hospitals. So this gentleman proceeds to elaborate that in order to do the correction with the IRS, it is really a simple affidavit from your mother as grantor granting to her son the estate. That was her intent. Because remember, everything's about intent. Was your mother's intent to allow strangers to usurp your labor? Do you think your mother's intent was to force you into slavery and to sell you upriver and get nothing in return for it? No.
Well, you're absolutely right, Derek, on the intent thing.
It's all about intent. And what this IRS guy was saying made perfect sense. I'm still going through some of his audios, and it's quite impressive. So I have started on that process already. In fact, I just went through a jury trial. Many of you already know that. And everybody's like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why haven't you done anything yet? Because I'm doing things my way. I do things differently than other people. Because the same old mundane process they've seen 1,000 times before. I'm unique.
Oh, you need people doing something different. You got to be Einstein. You can't keep doing the same stupid ass thing over and over, expecting a different result. I can't even speak. But But yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
So, I just had my mother make a special trust deposit into the court case, and it's special private and priority as grantor, granting I the estate as beneficiary, and stating that it was never her intent to allow strangers to usurp my estate for their benefit and for anybody else. So now I can prove that I have standing. Who in here has a letter from the grantor as grantee beneficiary to administer this estate? I want to know. Nobody else does. So if I'm the only one in the room that's been appointed beneficiary by the grantor, then that makes everybody else in the room a fucking trustee. Period. End of story. A trust will not fail for want of a trustee. The beneficiary doesn't have to be known, and nobody has to know that a trust was manifested. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and I've heard that argument on videos on court before.
Well, it's not an argument. It's a fact. Chris Hauser just went into it. He walked into a Social Security Administration hearing, and the judge said, "Hey, I really like helping veterans, but unfortunately, you're just not disabled enough." Well, how fucking disabled do you have to be after 1933? I have a friend who is now receiving Social Security checks because it's a trust. And he said, "Yeah, I'm disabled." And the Social Security Administration said, "Can you prove that you're disabled?" And he says, "Yeah, right there on the birth certificate. It says I'm black, which means I can't own anything. I can't have anything. So I'm disabled. I'm fully fucking disabled. I can't get anything. I can't own anything because according to the doctor, I'm black." And I died laughing. I mean, this is the funny ass shit. Well, it was about 4 weeks later, the Social Security Administration sent him a fucking first check for full disability. And now he gets a check month after month after month. Here's what people don't realize. And it made perfect sense when Chris Hauser started talking about his ordeal. He said, "I just got a couple questions, Judge. You said you can't give me anything because I'm just not disabled enough." He said, "I just got a few questions for you. What is Social Security?" And the judge looks right at him and said, "Well, it's a trust. You deposit in and we hold it, or they hold it." And he says, "Okay, so it's a trust." And he says, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, who's the beneficiary?" And the judge looks at him and goes, "Well, you are." And he says, "So I'm the beneficiary and it's a trust, but you can't give me my disability?" He said, well, I got one more question. He said, "Is it a Cesta K Vi trust?" And the judge goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." Now, at this point, the judge knows that Chris has a little more knowledge than a common man. And he said, "Well, if I'm the beneficiary and this is a Cesta K Vi trust, and you've already admitted that it's a trust and that you're administering this trust, who would you be administering the trust on behalf of? Would that be the beneficiary?" And the judge said, okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna reverse. I'm gonna take some time to reevaluate my decision.
That's what I thought.
I'll get a hold of you in a couple weeks. Now, the lawyer that was in there with Chris Hauser, according to Chris Hauser, said, I've never seen anything like that. I kind of forgot about that. Where did you learn that? He said, well, I knew I was going to be coming in here soon to debate this with you guys, and I really needed to do a little bit of studying. And I did a little bit of studying, and I found these words very peculiar. And so I wanted to come in here knowledgeable. It was, I think he said it was 6 weeks to the day he received $100,000 check from the Social Security Administration for back pay. Now, I'm here to tell you right now, you have unlimited funds. You're all millionaires. You don't even realize it. But it's not It's not millionaires in the aspect of Federal Reserve notes. Those are for banking purposes. Okay, that's DOD military fucking banking script. Period. What it is that when you were born, whatever your weight was in gold is what was put into your estate, right? Theoretically.
I was 10-pound baby, man.
I was 8 something. But what do you weigh now? I weigh 225. 225 pounds of gold, a lot of fucking gold. All right. But think about this for just a moment. That estate, they access every time they use the Social Security number and the numbers on the birth certificate. Okay. They tap into your cestui by trust and they whisk away the annuities. See, this is something Chris knew. Chris knew that they were creating annuities. So you got to kind of become familiar with these things. And the other thing that you mentioned earlier was futures. Very important because everything boils down to futures and annuities, period.
Yeah. Now, I've got trading on the market.
I've got a nice little saying here, and I think everybody should write it down. Rights, titles, interest, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments. Hediments are not necessarily something you can see. Just like general tangibles, you can feel, you can touch, you can hold, you can taste, you can lick, you can stick, whatever. But general intangibles, you can't see, smell, feel, hear, taste, nothing. You either know they exist or you do not. Okay? And under the Roman civil maximum of law, that he who wishes to be ignorant remain ignorant. They have no obligation to fucking tell you this shit. None. Not personally, anyway. But it's out there in the fucking books. So think about those annuities. Think about those securities. Realize that everybody that is attached to your estate as an administrator is liable for the transfer taxes on a carryover basis under Title 26, 2603, 2602, 2001, and 2002, which means anybody in constructive possession of decedent estate property, whether it be annuities, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, trust residuals, trust residue, rents, profits, proceeds, baggage, effects, assets, anybody that has any fucking piece of paper that you have fucking signed is responsible for a tax because everything you fucking sign is in fact a security, period. Everything. I don't care if you sign a piece of fucking toilet paper and flush it down the toilet. If a banker gets his hands on it, he can monetize it. And I was told that by a banker himself. Eric, if you're unfortunate enough to write your name on a piece of paper, toilet paper, and it sticks to your shoe, and you walk past me as you walk out, if I pick that thing up and it's got your wedding signature on it, I can monetize it. And he wasn't bullshitting.
Yeah.
So now
they take it to the, what do they call it? The window.
No, yeah, the federal discount window. They take it to the Federal Reserve.
Window, yeah, that's it.
I get a blank banker's endorsement here. Will you extend some credit on it? A line of credit. The Federal Reserve is extending their line of credit. Okay.
Yeah.
And
the money's created with your signature.
But they're turning around, taking your signature, the Federal Reserve is, and walking back to the fucking Treasury going, look, you got an enemy belligerent combatant here that doesn't understand the rules of engagement and aided and embedded us, and we're the enemy. And there you go. We want paid for it now because your fucking populace is stupid. We want paid. That's how you guys become enemy belligerent combatants. You're not qualifying your endorsements. Behind every endorsement, you put beneficiary. Put beneficiary.
Yeah, I think some of the people own their bond. I guess I've heard people.
Now you're no longer an undisclosed beneficiary. You're a disclosed beneficiary.
Yeah.
So the other thing that they're doing is they're running away with your securities, and they're claiming them on a 1099-A. Chris Hauser does a wonderful job of pointing this out. Now, I've known this for a while. I've just always been leery about doing these documents. Too many of my friends have been sent to prison for 3 to 5 years for doing documents, but they don't know how to back them up. It's not that they did the document wrong. It was when the men in black coats showed up at their house, they got nervous and acted.
It scared the hell out of me too.
Didn't stand on their square, and they go, yeah, we're going to take you to court. You don't really know what you're doing. And then they get in that court situation. They don't know how to appoint the judge under Power of Appointment Act 1951 trustee. And I'm just here to make sure that these double bookkeeping entries are zero balanced accounts zeroed out, because I didn't authorize any open books or open book entries, and I didn't authorize any accounts payable and accounts receivable, because I didn't do that. whoever's in constructive possession of those securities is not only guilty of security fraud, but they're also guilty of fraud and swindles and tax evasion. These people shit themselves when you understand tax evasion and securities fraud. Now, the only way to put the Securities and Exchange Commission on notice about the securities is, first off, you have to prove that you're the beneficiary. Well, how simple is it to prove? How many people on here actually know how to prove you're a beneficiary? If somebody asks you, hey, can you prove that you're the beneficiary of an estate? How many of you actually know how to do it? It's so fucking simple. Pull out the social security card and the birth certificate and go, here's the 2 documents that prove that I'm a fucking beneficiary of this estate. I'm the only one that has them. I'm the only one that legally and lawfully can acquire them. It's a trust. It can be nothing other than a trust. And anybody that you're giving those documents to or that is utilizing those numbers automatically becomes trustee, and you need to appoint them as such. When you do a blank banker's endorsement, there's no trustee been assigned. They know you don't know what you're doing. They're going to whisk away your securities and then do a 1099-A, an abandonment on them. They're gonna turn around and usurp your credits on account, and then they're gonna turn around and make you the surety for the taxes. And that's what people are getting hemmed up on. It's the taxes. You come in there being the creditor, never knowing or realizing that you don't owe taxes. They owe taxes. It says that right there on the 1099-As that they are required. Government, LLCs. Well, what do government and LLCs and corporations use? They use that fucking social security number, don't they? Dairy Queen, you get a job there. What do they want? The first thing they fucking want is your social security number, driver's license number.
That's what I know, that in the Title 26, 7701A1 is the definition of person, just what you just said.
Yep. And remember,
it's corporation. It's corporation.
To include one is to exclude all others. Okay. So if I call a person a corporation, I can't also call a person a man. Not in the same connotation, not in the same structure of the code.
Not in that same section, you can't.
Correct. Nowhere.
Yeah, but it doesn't. See, those don't apply. They don't cross over to other sections. And the definition of a person is in every section. And I mean, you can't even going from one chapter to another chapter or another section, they can't. It has to be defined everywhere they're applying it. So that's why the person is redefined in Title 49. You have to, well, it used to be in Title 5, I think, what a real person was. Now they've moved and jumbled that stuff somewhere else. I don't know where they put it now, because when I was studying this, we only had like 15 titles, and now we got, 60? God, the last time I looked at it, there was like 54. And in just like 2 years, they added like 6 or 7 more. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. But I mean, when the Constitution was formed, there was only 3 or 4, and I think the 5th one was like after the first 10 years of the Constitution. They didn't have a whole lot.
Right. Okay, well, here's the Constitution. The preamble shows you that it's a trust. It's the intent of the testators to create peace and posterity for the people, not persons, people. So, when you can start to express these trusts, things will change for you guys. But one of the first things you need to do, if your mother is still alive, thank the Lord, she's still alive, you need to have her write you up a simple little asseveration that states that her intent as grantor was to make sure that you were the beneficiary of the estate. Now you have physical proof of your mother's intent, because the father's estate we never inherit because they're considered to be unwed. So, and you can also have your father do one as a grantor because your father is tied to the land. The mother's not tied to the land. She's tied to the law of merchants. But in trust law, if you look at it, in trust law, your mother made a special trust deposit and got nothing in return, even though she didn't declare it to be a special trust deposit. It is that because she got nothing of value in return. So they're holding something of value and they didn't give her anything in value in return. And that creates a trust. Super important. And it's all about futures, securities. Everything is an excise tax. Every time you go into a store, what you're doing when you acquire something that's already been paid is you are merely paying an excise tax on behalf of the corporation. The corporation is actually the one that owes the tax, not you. So, but I'll leave you guys with that little bit. It's pretty simple, you know.
Yeah.
My mother
That's
just
a pretty
did
good
one.
detail. Yeah.
My
That's some
mother
good
just did one for me. She made 10 of them, 10 originals, and I'm going to send them to some very specific offices. Now, after the age of 25, because between the age of 18 and 25, you're supposed to go claim your estate. Nobody ever told us this shit. How the fuck were we supposed to know that? So after the age of 25, they presume and assume it to be abandoned. And now they're administrating it in theory forever, unless, says it right there in the KV Act, unless the man should come up and let them know. But it never says who to let know. Let's just think about this for a second. Who carries the primary active degree of fault for all debts? Anybody know that answer? Who carries the primary active degree of fault for all debts? Well, if you're in the United States, the office of the president carries the liability for all debts because they carry the primary active degree of fault after 1933. Because all real estate and property is vested in the office of the president of the United States. Isn't that beautiful? I fucking love it.
Where'd you get that out of?
Mr. Anonymous sent that over to me. And that's why Title 18, subsection 8 is so powerful. All obligations are obligations of the United States, all bank drafts, notes, instruments of indebtedness, bank notes, everything else, right? That's Title 18, subsection 8.
Subsection 8.
Title 18, subsection 8.
Yeah.
Now that coincides. That coincides with House Joint Resolution 192, Public Law 7310. There's a Stat 48 something or other. I can't remember it just off the top of my head. I'm actually out here fishing, but anyway, that all coincides. Now, under the laws of banking, because bankers fund both sides of the war, and make no mistake about it, we have always been in war. You were born on a battlefield. In 2013, Lindsey Graham came out on the House Senate floor and said the homeland is a battlefield. Justice Scalia in 2015 said very soon U.S. citizens will be rounded up and put to FEMA camps. I mean, these people aren't bullshitting. They're telling you exactly what the fuck they're getting ready to do. Okay? So if the United States, or if the homeland is a battlefield, he didn't say United States. He said the homeland is a battlefield. Well, shortly after making those statements, Donald Trump turns around and gives a delegation of authority to FEMA. Okay. Before that, Homeland Security turns around and creates a 100-mile border all the way around the United States. It's a different type of wall all throughout that 100-mile swath around the borders of the United States.
Yeah, that was done before Obama. That was done under George Bush Jr.
Okay. But what I'm trying to point out to you guys here is there are multiple things at play here, but most of it is just a fucking distraction. You're the only one with the authority to declare, and I don't like using the word declare because it's a term of war. It's a word of war. I like asseveration. You're the only one who can make an asseveration and affirm that you're not an enemy, belligerent combatant of the United States. Because why? Why wouldn't we want to be an enemy, belligerent combatant of the United States? Well, here's a perfect example of why. One, I'm a fucking owner. I'm part owner. Okay, I'm an interested party. I'm an entitlement holder to the corporation known as the United States. Okay, I'm an investor to the United States because of the way the structure of the system was designed. So I'm not an enemy. I'm here to assess taxes, make an observation, create a record, and report it to the Treasury. And that's exactly why you're filling out those IRS forms. Otherwise, you're an enemy, belligerent combatant of the corporation that you have interest in. You have an interest in everything here. Everything that was manifested, you have an interest in. You have an interest in IBM. You have an interest in Microsoft. You have an interest in Pfizer and all these other corporations. You have an interest in all of them. Go look at Walter Bierny, I believe is his name.
Bjorn, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Now, I called Walter because what he did was so fucking amazing. He shows how the CAFR in every county is in the black, not the red. It's in the fucking black. And what they're doing is projecting in 50 years that they won't have enough revenue, which is bullshit because they're in the black by hundreds of millions in most counties. Well, who do you think those hundreds of millions belong to? They took our sweat equity and our labor and our futures and our securities and they invested them in these huge fucking corporations that paid out big dividends and derivatives. You're an investor in Coca-Cola and don't even fucking realize it. Every corporation that is registered with the Secretary of fucking State, you're part owner of, or you at least you have an interest in. Okay? Doesn't mean you're the owner. Ownership carries liability. Ownership is a bad, bad fucking thing. And you want to know how I know it's a bad thing? Because that's what we're told and rammed down our throat our entire fucking life. You need to get up there and make something of yourself and own some property and own this and own that. Well, I've come to find out that anything the government tells me I need to do the exact fucking opposite. If the government says go left, I need to about face go right. Okay? Without question, without hesitation. You don't want to own anything. Ownership comes with liability. And that's the beauty of trust. Because you don't own it. I'll tell you something that's better than a prenup. Trust. You create a trust and you're the trustee and you get married and your wife thinks you have all this lavish fucking shit. And one day she decides to divorce you because she's like, well, you know what? I'm going to end up with a $500,000 house and a car and all this stuff. And I like this new young guy here. He's a young stud and I'll have everything I need and I'll help this young guy. Well, here's the problem there, Scooter. When we go to court and you find out that I don't own anything, you're not getting jack dick out of the relationship. You're just going to walk away the same way that we found each other, with nothing, because it's all in trust. And I'm merely a trustee on behalf of the beneficiary who doesn't have to have a fucking name. He doesn't have to be disclosed. He or she does not have to be disclosed. So I'm merely a caretaker on behalf of the beneficiary for the trust. So I don't own the house. I don't own the cars. I'm a trustee. And because of that, Your Honor, you can't give any of it away, because that would hurt the trust unless you want to extend your full commercial liability and personal liability and meddle in these trust affairs. And by doing so, you become 100% liable to the trust and to the beneficiary if you cause them harm. First thing the judge is going to say is, get them both out of here. There's nothing we can do. That young lady's not allowed back at that property. Well, why, Judge? He owns it. Now, he don't own shit. He's a trustee. I don't know who the owner is, and I'm not about to stick my neck in there. That's how powerful trust law is. They can't breach trust. That's a no-no. So I hope that helps point you guys in kind of the right direction.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that trust thing. It's from, what's his name, William? Several people I've heard that about. A couple of those guys are in prison, though. They were writing, or they were, I don't know if they still are, but some of them go in just to get out. They like to play with the law.
I'm kind of one of those fellas that likes to play with the law, but I do things a little bit different.
Yeah.
Dissimilar things should not be joined, and similar is not the same. For example, everybody likes to use Trezevant versus City of Tampa Bay. Well, let me tell you something. His scenario and the things that transpired will never be identical to what you experience. So why would you use somebody else's case? Secondly, $1,400 a minute in 1984 would have bought you 73.3 ounces of fucking gold. Okay? $1,400 now does not buy you that same fucking, he was awarded, like 23,000. That a bunch of 74 ounces of fucking gold. Well, 23,000 today does not buy you 74 ounces of gold. So let me ask you guys this. Do your rights diminish in value like the FRNs do? Because mine fucking sure the fuck don't. And the more learned I become, the more valuable my rights become as well. You know, time is a commodity. You realize that, right? Time is a commodity in this monetary system that we have. So when they take and they put you in jail, they're cheating the United States Treasury of tax revenue they could have got from your labor. They cheated the United States. And I'll tell you what, as an investor in the United States, that don't make me very happy when they cheat the United States. I don't like it when the United States is getting cheated by foreign entities and foreign operators. Causes harm to that national debt, and causes harm to my fellow man, and causes harm to my country. I don't appreciate that at all. And nor does the IRS, nor does the Treasury. We got to start looking at it a little bit different, folks. And these corporations have run amok on us. And these bankers, these foreign fucking bankers, because a judge sitting on a bench is a fucking banker. If you don't know how to put him in his place under the Power of Appointment Act of 1951, you are fucked. But if your mother's still alive, get her to write you a nice letter. Mom's name, do grant, set estate, use the birth certificate number at the top of the birth certificate to my son, Derek. Okay. Pretty simple. If your mother's not alive, you can write out a statement of fact structured as an affidavit of your mother's intent. You lived with her, for Pete's sake. Obviously, you know her intent. Her intent was never to give my estate to a bunch of foreigners on this land, strangers on this land, and cast me into a life of involuntary servitude and give them 30 days. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure says you only have to give them 21 days. Now, who might you send a document like that to? President of the United States? The Secretary of the Treasury in Puerto Rico? The IMF? The Social Security Administration? The Attorney General, the Governor, the State Registrar, Secretary of State? I think those are all viable options. I would even go as far as saying the Secret Service and the DOD. Why the Secret Service? Secret Service is actually charged with the duty of protecting the American people and their rights. When Donald Trump left office, do you guys remember what he said? Can't go to the fucking FBI because they've been compromised. Okay? And if you have a grievance or you need something addressed, he said what? Contact the Secret Service, didn't he? Guy's got a lot of belief in the Secret Service. Pretty impressive. I don't agree with everything Donald Trump has done. I will tell you this, he dropped some fucking bombs on people as far as intelligence is concerned.
Yeah, he did.
You don't go to the FBI. The FBI has been compromised. You don't go to your local police chief. They don't work for you and your rights. Police work for a municipality. County board works for a municipality. Most of the people that are on a county board wouldn't know how to run a business if their life fucking depended on it. Okay? They get voted in. It's a popularity contest. Why do you think in high school they do prom king and queen contest? It's a conditioning of your mind. Oh, I like Mark. He looks good. Yeah, and his girlfriend Cindy Lou is just kick ass. Let's just vote for him. We don't even know what the fuck they do. We don't know if they, are manslayers or rapists or homicidal maniacs, but they really look good in shiny shoes and nice fucking clothing. Let's vote for them. They're our new king and queen of the high school.
Well, there you go.
And that's the same thing that happens when people vote for fucking idiots in the system. This is fucking unreal. First of all, a voter doesn't fucking matter anyway. Because if you mattered, there'd be no such thing as an electoral college. Thirdly, if the United States was operating as it's supposed to per the Constitution, each state would have more delegates. There'd be more senators, more congressmen. You could shake a fucking stick at, because in the Constitution it says for every 30,000 fucking members in the state, there shall be a representative. Well, fuck, Nebraska's got 1.9 million people. Should be quite a few more than just 2, don't you think? Look at California. Look at the population of Florida. Look at the population. Okay, so they're not going by the book anymore. You got about roughly 560 people that run the shit show, and they're very learned with trust law, guys. These people know. And we're shaking them at their core because we're becoming learned and we're pushing harder. And we're doing things that are making them nervous, because a lot of these people can go to prison for high treason. I'll tell you something else you need to do. Take it for what it's worth. Take it as a grain of fucking salt. You need to accept the oath of office of the president of the fucking United States and his heirs and assigns and successors. That's an Article 6 oath, a Title 4 101 oath, the state constitutional oath, and the Title 5 3331 oath. Send it to them. Certified mail. Return receipt with the certificate of mailing. What are they going to tell you? Oh, we don't accept that. Oh, really? What are they going to deny their oath? Nah, not a chance. Not a chance. And what is silence, by the way? Acquiescence, right?
Admission, yeah. Silence and acquiescence is admission of guilt.
Well, it's not necessarily an admission of guilt, but it is the beginning of a contract, isn't it?
Yeah, everything's contract.
Because when you have a duty to speak, silence can only be equated to fraud, right?
Well, yeah, I would say an attempt to fraud anyway.
Well, it's just what it is. It was found in a Supreme Court case where the judge said that the lower courts have decided to use silence to their advantage, and it can be equated as nothing more than fraud when they have a duty to speak. When you start expressing trust, you start expressing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yes, that is right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I say that all the time. And I do say that all the time because I say, I try to explain to people that only people have rights, because I've heard government people, I hear it on the news all the time. They say, well, they're treating these government officials like they can plead the fifth. I said, they can't plead the fifth. They have a duty. They have a duty and responsibility to speak. Only the people have rights. Corporations have obligations, have privileges and benefits.
When we look at it in a trust relationship, it's a lot different. So in the trust, Janet Yelling, I want you guys to go look up who Janet Yelling is right now. Janet Yelling is a trustee appointed under the Power of Appointment Act of 1951 and a Form 56 for my estate. Now, why would I do that? And it's also her heirs, successors.
Form 56, right? Form 56. Yeah, that's.
Yep. And she's also, it's not just her, and it's not actually her, the woman, it's her office. Now, tell me what office she fills.
Well, Yellen was holding, the Treasury, right?
There you go. Now, why on God's green earth would I appoint that office, the office of the Treasury, over my estate as a fiduciary with an assignment to balance the books?
Yeah, she has to. That's what the Form
Yes, she
56.
has
They
to.
can't come after you without a Form 56.
Now, why would she do that for me? Because I sent the grantor's intent to her. Now she has a fiduciary duty to, as a trustee, to make sure that trust is protected and that the books are balanced and that the accounting is done and the accounts receivable are paid out in dividends and futures, derivatives, right? From the securities manifested from that estate, from the inception of the estate.
Okay, Derek, where did you learn all this? You got a book or a site or something, or did you just
been at this a long time, and I spend a lot of my time with very, very learned people that outright pay for things way differently than we do. And they won't just flat out hand it to me in a fucking booklet and go, here you go. We have multiple discussions. I have friends that it would blow people's minds if they actually saw how these people live. And they don't have a bank account. They don't pay for things traditionally like you and I have been raised to pay for things. Yeah. And they're the ones that are guiding me. But like they told me, I'm not just going to give you the fucking answer because there is no fucking right answer. It's how you perceive it and how you articulate it that makes the difference, Derek. I could give you exactly how I did it. I could show you the exact fucking paperwork that I did, but it wouldn't do you any fucking good because you'd walk in there like a bumbling idiot. They'd ask you a couple questions and you undoubtedly would fail.
Yeah, and you have to have some knowledge and background. Yeah.
They blackball your ass. One of them says that 98% of this, believe it or not, is not paperwork. It's comprehending and understanding the history and how we got here. 98% of it is knowing why it is the way it is.
It comes with filling out those forms properly because they don't put, some of it is your forms.
You don't have to fill out those forms. Why? Because you weren't licensed by the licensor as a licensee. But guess what? You now have a fiduciary. You now have a trustee who has a fiduciary relationship to fulfill, because breach of trust is the highest. Trust is the highest form of law. You breach the trust, you're in big trouble. That's a death sentence. You can be sent to Guantanamo Bay for breach of trust. Okay, they're not going to put themselves in that position. So part of it is knowing who you are first before you do these forms. So when they call you, or they send a couple of guys in some really nice black suits and a BMW to your house to beat on your fucking door, to ask you your name, and who you are, and what you're doing, if you can articulate it respectfully, without hostility and animosity, they're going to report back going, you figured it out. Cool, we'll watch him. Look over him. Make sure he's all right. And we'll go ahead and balance these books. Now, I want you guys to remember something. Your books didn't get all out of whack overnight. It took years to get this all fucked up. And it's going to take a little bit of time to get it corrected. One of the guys that I talked to, 2.5 months before he got a check from the IRS. 2.5 months. Took him 2.5 months to go back and do his accounting for a very specific issue that he was addressing. But he had to do his status correction first. And it all started with his intent of the grantor, which was his mother, which is the informant on the birth certificate. Under the law of nation 192, and the banking rules is whoever is the victor of the war has the fiduciary obligation and the active degree of fault of paying all debts. Well, if they're saying we're at time of war, ladies and gentlemen, don't you think it'd be pretty fucking wise to take off your white panties and wave them in the air and go, I surrender. I surrender. I'm not surrendering my rights. I'm just letting I'm not at war. I'm not at war with you. And under the law of nations of 192, when you surrender, you get to surrender with all your rights intact. Isn't that fucking amazing?
Oh, you're saying the key is at 192.
It's one of them. We're under the law of
nations.
Yeah. In fact, every country is under the law of nations.
Yeah.
Well, not every country. China's not under the law of nations. I mean, there's a few countries that are not, but we are most definitely.
Yep.
So understanding and comprehending that, why not turn around and do a change of address to the Social Security Administration office and have all of your bills, all the bills for the estate, forwarded either to the treasurer, Janet Yelling, her office. Now, it's not Janet Yelling who is my fiduciary. She's not the one with the fiduciary assignment as trustee. It's her office, her heirs, her assigns, and successors, which means tomorrow, if somebody put a bullet in her ass, I don't give a fuck if Steve Mnuchin gets back in there. He's got a task and a job as a trustee to make sure, for my benefit, that all of that is offset and discharged and it's a zero balance account. And that the rights, titles, and interest, dividends, derivatives, futures, and securities, after it's all zeroed out, all the trust res left over shall be sent to me. Okay? And I like this one. Make the check out to bearer on demand. How many of you realize how powerful bearer paper is?
Mm-hmm.
If I see a blank piece of paper watermarked rolling down the street, and it's for $100,000, and it says pay to bearer on demand, can I cash that?
Well, yeah, that's what it says. You got,
What is the
Yeah, 'cause
one
with the bearer-
requirement? What is the one requirement, if challenged, that a bearer must prove?
who he is. Well,
No,
no.
nope. I don't have to show a fucking ID.
No,
when
I didn't know,
go in
because
bearer paper.
no, not on a bear. You're right.
There's one thing I have to prove, and that's only if they ask, and it's how did you get it? Well, I saw some abandoned property rolling down the street. I picked it up. It's mine now. And I'm telling you, pay me. Well,
Yeah,
who are
I
you?
know a guy that happened to. Where are you from? I knew a guy in Arizona that done that. He was a contractor.
Mhm.
He fixed a building, an old cabin, for an attorney who took some property on his payment, and he found a cabin, and he sent this carpenter buddy of mine up there to fix it, and he found a bunch of letters with old stamps, which were worth a lot, and some bearer bonds, and he cashed them all in. He showed them to me. I couldn't believe it.
Some amazing things, people. Some amazing things. The other thing that will be added to your arsenal, because it's really only about 3 or 4 pieces of paper that really need filed. The SS5, the W8BEN, these documents I would look at. But in all honesty, you need a power of attorney. Well, you can't get a power of attorney unless your mother, the grantor, delegates it to you. You see how important the grantor granting to the beneficiary is now?
What if she's not alive anymore?
That's when you do a notice of her intent and you give them 30 days to rebut.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
30 days to rebut. Anybody else in here the intended beneficiary? Any man in office want to claim to be the intended beneficiary of this estate? Speak now.
Yeah, that's what I would like to be. Yeah, I'd like to do it. But my folks are dead too.
Speak now or forever hold your peace, or speak now or from this day forward. It is the fact
Where
that
do you send that?
Hmm?
Where do you send that? Who do you present that to?
the treasurer, the state registrar. I mean, think about all your public officials that are trustees that occupy an office.
Bureau of Statistics.
Governor.
There you
Secretary
go.
of State.
Now somebody's thinking. Bureau of
No, I went to
Statistics,
Vital Statistics. So that's what I was
Securities
wondering.
Exchange Commission, the Secret Service. The Secret Service is bad to the fucking bone, guys. I'm not joking when I tell you they are charged with the duty of protecting the American people. People, not persons, people. They're charged
Yeah.
with that duty. Do you know that the Secret Service has their own division that specializes in fucking ink and handwriting? Do you know why that is? So they can keep track of all the securities fraud. So they can keep track of robo signing. So they can tell you who signed what and what kind of fucking pen they used and what year that pen was manufactured. They can literally break it down to those kind of details. That's how detail oriented the Secret Service is. And their primary objective and job is not only to protect the President of the United States, but to protect the American fucking people. Do you know that you can't hold office with the status of a debtor? Did you know that? Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, all these people, you want to know why they're not in jail? They don't share the same status as the rest of us.
Good point.
You know why
Thank-
Hillary Clinton doesn't mind testifying at Congress? Because they can't use her vocals, her retina, or anything without her expressed written consent. They can't even use their fucking own audio video recordings against her without being fucking sued to the hill. Trust law. Can't breach
Well,
that
that's
trust.
interesting. I'll have to look into that one for sure.
Yeah, go look up Hillary Clinton's UCC1. Go look how badass it is. I mean, I think she even did the vein patterns of her culo, for fuck's sake. That's how detailed it is. It's ridiculous.
Is that Hooter talk?
No, I have it somewhere, but anyway, it's how I originally started to study the UCC1 was because of what I come across, which was Hillary Clinton's.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that's where the reservation of rights is there. That's administrative law. That's what they call contract
Right.
laws in that.
Yeah, but
area.
administrative law is for what?
That's executive.
Protection of rights. When you go before an administrative law judge, what are you doing?
Well, that's contract, the reservation of rights, and that's why it's in that section.
Right.
It's trying to remember what they call it. Not positive law. I don't think that's what I'm thinking of. Where states pick up some portion of it. If every state picks up some portion of that law, there's a name for it. I can't remember. It's been too long since I've looked into that. There's a term I'm looking for, but I can't recall it. Anyway, it is in that section, but I know administrative law has to do with executive branch, which usually comes under, like your governor. So most of those edicts in there really apply to his people that work under the government, either employees,
Right, you're
or,
talking about
like state troopers and so forth. But
legislative
it doesn't
acts,
apply to
right.
me. It doesn't apply to me as a people.
Right. It's like the income tax doesn't apply to like 98% of the populace.
Yeah,
First
it only
of all,
applies
it
to the
applies to
revenue
people.
people.
It applies to the people who created it. They're bound by
Yeah.
it. And it applies to government officials. And if you read Title 27, it only applies to people who are engaged in the sale of alcohol, firearms, and tobacco. I don't know about you guys, but I've never, and you can get a hold of the FBI and you can inquire about that. Has this estate, Derek Satan Gonzalez, ever been known or ever registered to sell tobacco, firearms, alcohol, tobacco, or firearms? Yes or no? And they'll write you back saying, no, we have no records indicating that the Derek Satan Gonzalez estate has ever been engaged in selling alcohol, firearms, and tobacco. And we have no records reflecting that he's even applied to do such a thing. Well, then income tax and that under Title 27 doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
That's how I won my U.S. tax court petition.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of ways to get around Title 26.
I'm not getting around.
What is it? Section 7806, I believe it is, says you can't hold the Congress responsible for that title because it really doesn't mean anything, and they've changed
it means
that.
something. It means something, but only to a specific group of people.
Just
Or,
because
excuse
they
me,
wrote
let me-
it doesn't
let me
mean
correct
we
that.
meant anything by it. That's what they,
Right.
the way they wrote it.
Right.
You mean they didn't win your case by using Matthew 5, 25, and 26?
It's just like the Gonzalez case out of Colorado when it got tossed up to the Supreme Court because the woman, her husband murdered her daughter. I think something along those lines. I can't remember the Gonzalez Rodriguez case. But anyway, Anthony Scalia and Antonia Scalia said, well, the word shall doesn't mean what the American people think it means. It means may or may not. It's huge. It's a huge landmark case. Shortly after that, Congress gets together and says everything that's in our code that says shall, if it's required by law, we must now change it to say must, because shall is vague and ambiguous. So they turn around and they do a doctrine. What did they call the doctrine? Essentially saying that everything must be, is the Plain Writing Act. Everything must be in plain writing. Pretty interesting, huh?
Yeah, well, there's a lot that ain't plain, and Title 26 is the worst. But yeah, 7806, somebody asked about what that is. I know it changed a little bit. They've reworded it. But the last time that I had checked, basically it was a can infer imply that we meant anything by it. That should have been number 1 on Title 26, but they hit it at 7806, I believe it is.
Well, statutes, codes, city ordinances, rules, and regulations only apply to those who create it and government employees. And under the UCC 1-301.6 or 103.6 says that anything that is not in harmony with God's law and natural law is void in absentia. But what they're not telling you is it's void to the people, but it's not void to the people who created it. See what I'm saying? We're under natural law, okay? And God's law is very simple, so simple. But what you guys need to really focus on is trust law, because that's where they're getting us all. We go in there wanting to argue. Look, I tell them just like this: there are no facts in dispute, and I waive all benefits without God. Okay, I agree with everything they're saying, and people are going, "You're fucking nuts, dude." They're telling you that you're going to go to prison for 2 years. No, I'm not. I'm not going to prison for anything. I agreed with everything that they said I did, but I don't accept the charges. They need my consent to accept the charges. I don't accept the charges. I absolutely am here to tell you I did everything those little fuckers said I did. Okay? There's no argument about that.
Right. Well, yeah, that's kind of a trick on words, because when you think they're talking about the accepted charges, or do you understand the charges against you?
Yeah, it means,
people
are
don't
you going to
really
stand
understand
as
what's
surety?
being said.
Yeah,
You know, it's
are you going to
urgent-
stand as surety for these charges? Are you going
Yes,
to pay
that's
the
what-
excise taxes? So you're going to settle this account? No, you are, trustee. And I get that shit done because you're
Yeah,
required.
I'm here to sign. Hold your pen up and say, I'm here to sign the check.
And that's what the judge is supposed to be doing, is cutting the check to you because you're the beneficiary.
I'm
But
here to
see-
sign it, Your Honor. I got
see, the
my pen right
prosecutor-
here.
See, no, you're there to receive a check. See, the prosecutor is coming in as a quasi beneficiary. Okay, he's not the actual beneficiary, but what he's doing is he's coming in as the quasi beneficiary, because the beneficiary is unknown. So he's coming in as a trustee for the undisclosed third-party beneficiary that they know exists out there somewhere, but nobody's proven that they're the beneficiary. That was the importance of my mother dropping into the court case after everything was said and done, that it was never her intent, or it was her intent to make sure that that estate was granted to me by her, the grantor, and I, the beneficiary. Do you guys know how powerful that document is? Stupid crazy powerful.
Well, I can
Yeah, I
believe
went
that.
through it.
I mean, that's interesting
All
that
the
you brought that
semantics,
out.
all
I
the
appreciate
bullshit,
that.
none of it matters at the end of the day, because that's all theatrics. It's all a show. What it's really all about is the annuities, securities, and futures. The credits on account generated from the performance bond, the bid bond, the payment bond, the warehouse bond, okay, SF24, 25, 25A. And they have a fiduciary responsibility to do a full accounting, zero out the account, and produce the trust res to the beneficiary. And now they know who the fuck the beneficiary is. And now the prosecutor can't come in and say, well, I was administering the estate on behalf of the beneficiary that was unknown. I'm known. The beneficiaries are known, which makes all you motherfuckers trustees.
Good point.
Now, I'll point something else out to you guys. I want you guys to write down entitlement holder. You need to start studying it. And there's a very good reason for it. Now, when Mr. Anonymous pointed out entitlement holder, I was wholly against it. I'm like, man, I know you're a genius, but fuck. I don't agree with entitlement holder because it's a commercial aspect. You don't hear about entitlement holder in trust law. That's commercial. But when I started to study entitlement holder, I saw why he was so enamored with entitlement holder. So I put beneficiary / entitlement holder. You want to know why I put entitlement holder? Okay, I'll grab the net. You got something? Sweet. Reel it in nice. Yeah, good job. All right, let me get the net. So entitlement holder, that's all right. Just step onto the boat and come off to the one side of the boat so you can reel it in. No, come on into the boat. I got a net. Entitlement holder carries zero liability, but has the ability. Go ahead and reel it in on. Yep, go ahead. Just keep doing it. It's not stuck. You got a big fish. So wheat might be a turtle. Keep reeling. You got to keep reeling and pulling and reeling and pulling. Oh, it snapped. We lost a big one. Some bitch. All right. Entitlement holder carries zero liability and still has the ability to give orders, to administer the estate, to give orders to the trustee. So that's why I put beneficiary / entitlement holder. I could fill two roles.
Thank you.
I can't fill them both at the same time. But one minute I can be the beneficiary, and the beneficiary can't give orders. You guys realize that, right? When you're the beneficiary and you look up at the judge and say, you're the trustee, don't cause me harm, damage, injury, or loss, or you'll be commercially liable and personally liable for any damage that you cause to I, okay, as the beneficiary. But as the entitlement holder, 5 minutes later, hey, by the way, I'm coming now forward as the entitlement holder, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a directive, an assignment of what I expect to be done on the interest on behalf of the beneficiary. What's that? I want you to zero out those books, zero out those accounts, zero balance that shit, and provide a check to I, the entitlement holder, for the benefit of the beneficiary of the trust residual that's left over once you zero out those accounts. And he was going, well, wait a minute. You said you're the beneficiary 5 minutes ago. Yeah, I can wear multiple hats, just like you wear multiple hats. At one second, you're an administrative law judge. The next second, you're covering the microphone. We're ex parte sealed, and you're acting like a fucking chancellor. One moment, you're upholding my rights. The next minute, you're acting like a fucking vagrant administrator, okay? and trying to thwart me off and fuck me over so you can unjustly enrich yourself. I can wear multiple hats, too. Look, the government can't do anything that you can't fucking do as well. Period. Where did they get the right to do it? If you don't have a right to do it, where the fuck did they get the right to do it? If the Federal Reserve can create money out of thin fucking air, their own private banker script, can you do it as well? Oh, he just came off. You didn't break the hook. No. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a pretty big fish. Nice job. We'll work on landing him. Probably wrapped around that pole is what happened. But anyway, I gotta get going. People that are hosting me here have cooked dinner. So I hope this was enlightening for you guys, me dropping in here and just kind of providing some things that I've learned along the way. So let's just recap. Power of attorney, grantor, a letter from the grantor stating their intent. If your mother's already deceased, God rest their soul, then you need to create an affidavit of intent that it was your mother's intent to name you beneficiary. Is there any other agent and agency claiming beneficiary of this estate? When they don't respond, all contracts require what? A start date and an end date, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't specify, if you don't respond in 21 days, if you don't put that on there, you're basically just pissing up a rope. You have to put that on there. You have to give them a certain day to respond. Federal rules of civil procedure, which don't apply to us, but I like to use it because it falls within their rules too. You know, Jesus once said, "Is not your law the same as my Father's law?" So I think 21 days is reasonable, considering that they're micromanaging 350 million Americans' trust, right? 21 days is nice. In 21 days, they don't respond. Guess what? They acquiesce to the fact that they're not claiming beneficiary. So you now coming forward as beneficiary, knowing your mother's intent, has been unrebutted and unrebuked and is true in fact. Okay?
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, failure to reply, acquiescence. Yeah, you win the case automatically.
Yep. Now here's something
That's-
else. After 21 days, nobody responds. Guess what you get to do? You can run into a probate court and have them issue a decree on it.
Yeah, you got an order now. Now you're forcing you're forcing the court to exercise justice, to execute the
Right. Yep.
yeah.
Then you got your power of attorney. Okay. My mother delegated power of attorney over the estate to me, as well as being the beneficiary. I have power of attorney, which means I can appoint and assign others, like Janet Yelling, with a Form 56. Everybody says, "Where'd you get your power?" Got it from the grantor. Government agents get a hold of me and go, "Hey, who do you think you are? Why do you think you can tell me what the fuck I have to do?" "Oh, here, look, power of attorney. See that? You got one of these? Oh, you don't? That's a nifty little badge you have, but my piece of paper, way more powerful than your badge ever will be. Ever. When it pertains to this estate." They can't govern man. They can only govern what they created. And they created something with your mother not having exposure.
Yeah.
That's fraud by way of inducement. But they don't want to go to prison for fraud by way of inducement and falsifying records in order to extort and enslave you. So what's the other option? Congratulations, young man. You figured it out. There you go. Now shut the fuck up.
Hey Derek, what you got a site somewhere where you're on? You got a YouTube or anything?
Oh, I got a self-governance use site, but I need to do some things to it. So,
Well, I sent you my email. I'm hoping that maybe you can get me whatever you got.
yeah, I'm just on a phone right now, so I can't see anything like that. But nevertheless, I mean, this whole platform was funded by most of the people that are actually on here now through Self-Governance U. So it's just my way of giving back. And a lot of great, brilliant people come on here, much like yourself, that provide credible information about their firsthand knowledge, trials, and tribulations that they've been through that have led to the discovery of certain aspects of this game. And it really is a game, guys. Start looking at it like the game of Monopoly. Hey, Chris Hauser just walked away with a brand new fucking truck with a 1099A, for fuck's sake, guys. And guess who's doing the 8281s and the all the other forms that go with it? Well, the ones that are licensed by the licensor as a licensee are now doing that. His trustees and his proxies are the treasurer. Isn't that fantastic? And I understand exactly what he's talking about. Chris Hauser's on it. I just have a deeper understanding on some levels, and maybe he does too. He's just not talking about it online. So I shouldn't even say that I have a deeper understanding of it. Maybe it's just the fact that he doesn't feel like going as deep as what I just did with you guys tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it because you gotta, if you can't do this, you lose your insight. But if you got people like you and a lot of other people that have little bits and pieces.
I used to
you
chase
can
the
put it together.
postal thing. I used to chase all kinds of fucking phantoms out there. All kinds of patriot mythology. I'm done doing that shit. I'm done doing that shit.
I've done that too. I wanted
Mhm.
something that would really work, that I could feel comfortable with, because I saw that, going through a lot of these other things, you're not going to get the entire nation to do it. I was looking for a way to teach
right up.
the whole nation on board that's realistic, because trying to file for these long paperwork, sovereignty and all that, you ain't going to get these people to do that because they're too stupid and too lazy.
All right, check this out. I'll give you guys one last thing before I go. Everybody on here should be contacting the IRS tomorrow and ordering 1099As and 1099Cs and 1099 OIDs for the year 2021. They're always a year behind. So that means everything that you do in 2022 shall be filled out on a 2021 1099 form. The 1099A is a fucking check. Just like the W-4 is a fucking check. People don't realize that. It's a check.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of my other buddies went through it the other day in a Zoom call with us, showing how you can bill these people up. If they're going to treat you like an employee, then you can bill them. And because they didn't negotiate how much your pay was worth, how much your time was worth, your valued time commodity, you can bill them whatever the fuck you want, and there's nothing they can do about it. But you don't bill them directly. You go through the IRS and you say, this company, I don't want paid $50,000 from them for my work for an hour of wearing a mask in their facility. You treat me like an employee, you're going to pay me like an employee. Why? Because involuntary servitude shall not be had. Then you do a recoupment on it afterwards through the IRS. So anyway, with that said, I'm going to let you guys go. I got my friends up here, Ben